A lot of people have been thinking about the design for Tesla's $25,000 model, which I hate the fact that we can't agree on a name on it, because I just want to call it the Model 2, just because it's supposed to be, cheaper, smaller than a Model 3, but then I get a billion people telling me, Drew, it's not going to be called Model 2, stop calling it that, Elon said it's not the Model 2. Okay, Elon's not giving us an official name, so some of us call it the Tesla Compact, even though we don't truly know if it's a compact or not, and I know Tesla's not actually going to be able to sell this thing for $25,000 due to inflation and the fact that none of their vehicles actually start at their advertised starting price when they're unveiled. But I went back to the fundamental reason Tesla announced this vehicle and started talking about it, which was primarily about how casting press technology that they're already implementing with the Model Y built at Giga Texas and at Giga Berlin, and the ramped up 4680 battery production they're prioritizing right now is going to allow for a structural pack. It allows for over 370 fewer parts, simpler manufacturing methods overall. As we saw at GigaFest, Tesla is able to bolt the seats of the car directly to the battery pack. And if you go back and watch Battery Day, you'll find that that is the primary driving factor behind what is supposed to make vehicles more affordable. That's what's supposed to allow electric vehicles to be cheaper than the cheapest internal combustion engine vehicles. And that's supposed to be a huge turning point in the EV transition, is when it's cheaper to buy an EV, not just own and operate, but to actually pay upfront less than you would if you would have bought a gas car. And the more I realized that's what they were emphasizing, the more I realized the design they go with the Model 2, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't really matter that much. Like, fundamentally, building a vehicle that's just slightly more compact than a Model 3, is that really gonna be saving that much money? Like, just by using less steel, less exterior panels, you're still gonna be using probably a single motor, you're still gonna be using likely autopilot hardware, and you're still gonna have the FSD chip and all that. So at the end of the day, I really don't think we need a compact Tesla to hit that super low price point. What matters at the end of the day is manufacturing efficiency and Tesla ramping up these batteries and getting the cost per cell much, much lower, which I think will eventually happen. It's going to take some time. Obviously, Tesla back at Battery Day didn't even think this would be ready until 2023, and due to supply chain shortages plus ramping of the 4680 batteries taking longer than Tesla thought, I wouldn't be shocked if they don't expect to launch that model until 2024, 2025. But I'm gonna go out on a limb here and suggest that Tesla should basically just update the Model 3. And I genuinely think just by updating the way you build the Model 3, you could actually substantially drop the price point. I love the Model 3 design, for the record. Like, I loved it ever since they unveiled it in 2016. It's a solid vehicle. It keeps winning awards every single year, and time again, it's proven to be the most popular EV across the planet. Model Y, just through production alone, will probably start to outsell the Model 3 shortly, but still, a lot of people love that car. It's got a decent amount of practicality. It's not too big, but it's not too small, and it's very scalable, which is what I appreciate about the Model 3 design. You can make it extremely performance-driven, or you can make it fairly affordability-driven, and even though it was short-lived, Tesla did hit $35,000 at one point with the Model 3. Likely because it was selling way too well, they didn't offer that option for too long, and now with a combination of high demand for that model as well as inflation, now it starts at $45,000, but I don't think it costs anywhere near that much to build. However, from Tesla's own statements and earnings calls, it sounds like the Model Y is actually cheaper to build than the Model 3, and yet, of course, it's a bigger vehicle, so they can charge more for it. That's why Model Y is the priority at Shanghai, at Fremont, at Texas, and Berlin, because it's a popular segment, and it's a very profitable build, so Tesla knows they can rake in cash very, very quickly with the Model Y. But assuming they ramp production successfully at these two new factories next year, and 4680s are now being pumped out like crazy, they have lots of them going out, raking in all the cash from all the Model Y sales. Hopefully, I'm one of those people. I actually think if you took some time to shut down the Model 3 assembly line at Fremont, design some new Giga presses that can design the front and rear underbody casts to be a single piece, alongside a structural battery pack, maybe the Cato Road facility could provide enough 4680 batteries for the Model 3. But frankly, like, it's a great selling vehicle. Like, the value is fantastic. No one else in the EV space is anywhere close to offering a $51,000 model that offers you over 350 miles of range, or a $45,000 model that offers you over 270 miles of range. That's still a great value, and yet this is using very dated manufacturing technology. There's still not any single piece castings throughout the entire Model 3 design. It's still using the 2170 batteries, and they're non-structural. So once you have Model Y ramped and the cost of 4680 batteries has dropped a lot, you could probably reduce like hundreds of components with the Model 3, and it's a smaller vehicle overall. Plus, because the Model 3 is going to be overall lighter than the Model Y with this design, and Tesla said they plan on using lithium iron phosphate for this unannounced vehicle, in a couple years Tesla might be ready to actually start doing lithium iron phosphate in the cylindrical format, which I don't believe they're starting with the Model Y, but once they are, that's going to be even cheaper to build because you're not going to need the nickel manganese based cathode. Now you can just use lithium and iron for the raw materials of your batteries, which there are plenty of, and of course the 4680 format is built to be scaled at an insane volume. Make that structural, and with the lower weight savings, you won't even need that big a battery pack to still go 270 miles on a charge. And even if you want to divert some of the 4680 batteries from the Model Y assembly line, since the Model 3 is a much smaller vehicle, you'd be able to use less cells and less batteries overall in that design. And I think theoretically with a rear-wheel drive Model 3, you could probably get the price under $30,000 thanks to that manufacturing simplicity and everything they learned from ramping the Model Y in Texas and Berlin. You don't necessarily need a compact design at the end of the day. Whether or not it's a smaller hatchback and it uses, I don't know, 10 to 15% less exterior aluminum, or it uses 10% less steel for the base body design, I don't think that's really where most of the money savings is. I think that ramping of the 4680s and using less cells overall by making them structural and using GigaPress technology to simplify how many robots you need and how many steps there are to manufacturing a vehicle, that alone I think could get the Model 3 price way down and sell at an extremely high volume, because of course it'll still be a Tesla with all of the great tech and self-driving features people care about, with the great software and the range. I think you theoretically could make it go over 400 miles. You know, at Battery Day they talked about how all of these different stages of battery technology they're implementing can allow for a 10% range increase here, 15% here, 20% here, and if you stack all of those range increases up, yeah, you could probably make a more luxury version of the Model 3 that goes over 400 miles, maybe even over 500 miles on a charge. My point is, it just wouldn't be necessary because you'd probably be better off making 300-mile range versions of the Model 3 that you sell at a lower price so it can sell at bigger volume, but you won't need as many batteries per car. So Tesla's got to find that right balance between how many batteries do we want to put in this vehicle and how much do we want to charge for it. And I think given how the Model 3 is currently already outselling nearly everybody, and it's well over $40,000, imagine if you started getting it down to $35,000 or lower, the volume would be even more insanely high, and you don't really need the range to be much better for the Model 3 to sell at extremely high volume. If anything, just make the rear-wheel drive Model 3, you know, $35,000 or lower with those new batteries, with that iron phosphate chemistry and structural pack, single-piece castings, everything they talked about, into a really cheap Model 3, and then for those who are willing to spend the extra money, Tesla could still comfortably charge $50,000 plus for a long-range Model 3 that goes like 500 miles on a charge, and thanks to the ramping of the batteries and the single-piece castings, it will still probably be really cheap to build. It's just thanks to that more mass-sensitive cathode, you'll be able to get range that no one else can even come close to, therefore people can justify the price. So I actually wish Tesla doesn't really unveil a new design for this compact or cheaper car. I think I would rather them just update the Model 3 with all of the new technologies they've learned from the Model Y and see how low they can get that price point, because it's a solid vehicle. I think it's beautiful, and there seems to be no slumping of demand. So I'm gonna keep bringing that up every time someone says, well, in my country compact cars sell better. Well, you haven't seen the kind of cars your country would buy if there was a $30,000 version of the Model 3 that still went close to 300 miles. If that was there, I bet a ton of people would still be comfortable spending that kind of money on a larger size vehicle than what they're used to. But feel free to disagree with me down below. Thank you to everyone on Patreon supporting me and helping me afford a 4680 Model Y, hopefully at some point next year. And to everyone else, thank you just for watching. It seriously helps me a ton. Take care. Have a great day.